Hello everyone and welcome back guys to more iRacing, where today we're here back with our second test drive of the new 2020 Season 4 cars. This time round we're in the Dallara 217, otherwise known as the LMP2 car. Now this one, obviously, as you can already see, I did do one test lap as well just before we jump into this. A very, very different beast to the Corvette that we've driven. Now, unfortunately, obviously for me, I've never really done much LMP driving at all on iRacing. Obviously, I've never really done anything in the LMP ones. I do have the Porsche, but I've just never really got into it. Obviously, the only real series you can do is ILMS or the endurance stuff, and obviously I don't really do either of those series all too much. So this Dallara, just from the one lap I've done in it, is, yeah, a rather different experience to anything I've ever driven on iRacing before. Now, I've never really done much in LMP2s anywhere else as well before, so I haven't really got too much to base this on in terms of how I should be driving, as is proven there on your screens. But yeah, we're going to head, obviously, to Le Mans. It's a Le Mans prototype. That's just what you do. And yeah, we're going to do a couple of laps just to see how we can handle this car. Now, the first one, as you've already seen now, I struggled with it a couple of times trying to get it around the track. So yeah, we'll see how this goes. And obviously, if you are new around here, make sure you do get yourself subscribed as well for more iRacing content on the channel. We're definitely going to be giving the Corvette a go over the course of the season. Maybe we'll sort of hold off on the Dallara just for a little bit more before we jump into some bigger racing with it. But, you know, you never know. Perhaps we'll fall in love with it over the course of today's video as well. Now, obviously, one of the big things for me about this car that sort of entices me more than the LMP1 is you haven't got to mess around with all the hybrid stuff still. Now, I've got no issue with sort of the hybrid stuff in itself, but it's just the sheer amount of practice and preparation and everything like that, and setups are so critical, and you've got to use all this and that with the ERS modes that sort of at the moment I don't feel like I play iRacing enough exclusively to really sort of delve into all of that as well. So maybe the LMP2 is sort of more to my taste as well here. Coming down in towards the first of the Mulsanne chicanes. Just breaking down through there. It does like to get a little bit loose on the throttle there. It does have traction control, which I was actually quite surprised by. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, I just didn't think this thing had traction control. But I mean, everything else at Le Mans nowadays does, so I guess it doesn't make too much of a difference. But yeah, obviously I think this thing is going to be hugely, hugely popular. Obviously, oh, that's way too late. Into the second chicane, we're going to do a Sebastian Vettel from the Italian Grand Prix. Through there, I think. Yeah, just obviously the new Delta system as well. Clearly working wonders. Now it actually shows you how long you've got to get rid of your Delta time as well. It's a big, big improvement. I do honestly believe as well. We'll just make sure obviously we get that off our screens. But yeah, hopefully, perhaps today, yeah, we'll fall in love with the LMP2. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be the thing that we spend loads of time driving over the course of 2020 Season 4, but hopefully down the line, obviously it's something now that we've got that we can look into in the near future as well. Now, one of the first things that I really, really did notice in this car was obviously just the sheer top speed of it still. Obviously, it is a cut-down LMP1 car in sort of very, very simple terms. But, yeah, I mean, you're still topping out at over 200 miles an hour in quite a few places around this circuit. Down in towards Indianapolis. Certainly cannot take the first part flat if you want to get it slowed down for the second part. I've noticed as well just how tight the steering rack feels in this thing as we get a little bit too late on the brakes through there. You can just see just how little steering lock this thing has as well. So it is, yeah, rather weird to drive in that sort of sense. You only really get, what, about, I'm trying to think, about 240 degrees of rotation, really, throughout the entire rack, which is rather strange. Perhaps we can have a look at trying to tweak that in the settings as well. Obviously, just like the Corvette video we did, it is just on complete baseline setups as well. So, yeah, not quite, obviously got everything fine-tuned as we head through, through the Porsche curb, sorry, I should say. Skimming the wall through the first spot, but nothing too much to worry about there. I think we just got a little bit over the curbs. But yeah, anyway, that has sort of been our outlap. Always a bit strange to do such a long outlap at Le Mans, but it sort of feels weirdly not that long as well at the same time. I always sort of just compare it to Nerve, because it's the only sort of other track that is sort of really, really long. But yeah, really, obviously, there's nowhere near the same sort of length as the Nordschleifer as well there. But that is our warm-up lap. Done and dusted then. Let's try and go for a couple of quicker ones. Obviously, I'll give you guys a bit of audio as well when we head out onto the Mulsanne in towards turn 1. A bit deep on the brake, way too deep on the brakes. That's already going to ruin our first lap of the session. Yeah, certainly, I feel like I'm driving this too much like an LMP1 at the moment. Obviously, you're able to carry a bit too much speed trying to use the LMP1 braking markers as well, which obviously, its brakes are nowhere near as good as the LMP1s. That's sort of the big thing I've noticed. This is going smoothly. I mean, you can carry a lot of speed, obviously, through the corners. You know, it's still a high downforce machine, but yeah, certainly not quite on the same level as an LMP1. You can see why it's so much slower still around a lap, around the circuit here. But yeah, like I said, I'll give you guys a bit of audio as we head through the chicanes. So there we go, that was sort of just a full run from low to top end speed there. Does sound a bit better than the Corvette, I'll be honest. I do prefer the sound of it. It just sounds very, very mean and dirty as well, which is always a nice thing to have in your race car. You know, you got to scare the opponents out of the way as we head down in towards the end of the back straight, braking just at that cone a little bit early that time through. That's probably just the GTE braking point, and obviously this thing weighs a bit less than a GTE car, and certainly out the anchors a little bit later. Yeah, very much, obviously, that's the whole point of an LMP2, is it slots in between the GTEs and the LMP1 cars to give you something in the middle, something that gets a bit in the way of both of them at the end of the day. But obviously the HPD, I think it did the job for a long time, but people have been wanting a new one for so long now. So obviously RIP HPD, I think RIP as well to the Daytona prototype. I think this is going to be replacing both of them. So it's certainly got big boots to fill, you know, sort of sub 1k iRaters, all that good stuff as well from the DPF car. Obviously that Corvette. Obviously some very, very famous clips of people getting in the way in that Corvette DP car in front of GTEs, getting 4Xs and everything, all that good stuff as well. So maybe this thing, yeah, needs a 2k iRating minimum or something like that so people actually know how to drive it, although then I couldn't as well. So yeah, perhaps, well, I don't feel ready to race this thing anyway at the moment, so I won't be doing that just yet. But anyway, down through the Porsche curves to finish off our second lap, slowly getting to grips with this beast. Like we said, we'll go for one more flyer here, see if we can actually get a lap nailed around this Le Mans circuit. But yeah, very, very good fun nonetheless. Let's go then for one final attacking lap around this famous Le Mans. Try and make sure we leave it in second gear so you get the power nice and early out the final corner. Wind it up and watch it go down this front straight. Obviously, remember to brake a little bit earlier. That lap was a 3:37, so not too bad. Certainly not quick by any stretch. I'm sure people will be able to go a lot quicker than that. Coasting through turn 1, just so we can get it back over to the right-hand side. Still running way too deep in through turn 1. No idea why we're struggling so much through there, but we clearly are. But we're not going to worry about that all too much. Make sure we get rid of the Delta as we head down through the next couple of corners. Try to tap the curves nice and tidily. That corner's not quite flat out at the moment, or at least not for me. Just don't quite have the downforce that could work for you. Through Tetra Rouge though, still able to get nice and early on the power. You can see we're already half second up on our previous lap, so that's not too bad. If we can get sort of about a 3:34, a 3:35 I think should be where we're aiming for at the moment. Obviously we're not the best iRacer in the world, as I'm sure you all can probably already tell from this video, but I do certainly enjoy it as well. Brake just at the hole in that wall if you're going to be brave and committed. Get it down in second gear before you turn in, and then carry it out on the exit. Obviously you don't want to use first, it's a bit too slow, and also the traction bog is just ridiculous as well. Now, not quite able to get the same run as we did first time round as well. But I hate the fact those blue LEDs are just a little bit lower on the dash. That's already really bugging me as well. There's run a little bit wide on the entry to the second chicane. You can chuck it in a little bit more into this one. Not quite that much though, as we get a little bit loose. Try and get the power on the exit. Oh! Back end really not liking that one, so clearly, yeah, just pushing the car a little bit over its limits, over the curbs. Still not a big fan of the curbing. Obviously, the HPD was famous for if you hit a curb, you'd always get floor damage, and then it would be screwed for the rest of your race. You'd have a massive drop at top speed as well. But anyway, down in towards the end of the back straight, snagging the brakes. Come on, get it rotated through, just about get it off the sand, so we do hold on as we now head down the next straightaway here. We're still, yeah, a little bit down on our previous lap, but yeah, this thing is rather good fun, but it's certainly going to take me a lot more practice. It's the sort of thing that I'd have to do, you know, sort of an hour's worth of practice before I'd feel comfortable putting it in to a race here. So maybe down the line, yeah, if I find a bit more time, I'll sort of schedule a day in the week that I can properly sort of focus on this thing. As again, whoa, what is that? I think we might have been a bit too brave in towards Indianapolis there. We are really, yeah, not quite as good in this thing as we were in the Corvette. We're definitely a little way off being able to drive this thing properly in races there. A bit of traction bog as well as we head out of the corner. That I think that's our Nage, isn't it? I might be getting that wrong. I can't quite remember all the corner names around here. But anyway, down in towards the final sector. Once again, then in towards the Porsche curves. Fourth gear, obviously, in this. It's not quite just the blend that you find in an LMP1 car. You definitely do still have to slow it down. So we head through the first part. They're going to leave it in fourth, rev out the engine as much as possible. Down into third through the second part there as we head now down in towards the final few corners of the lap. Open up the car as we head now down in towards the four chicanes to finish off the lap. What a little car this thing is. It is very good fun, despite just how bad I am at driving it. Chuck it through the first chicane. Really just try and open up your run through the second one there. Just take a lot of curb through the first part. Try and avoid the traction bog too much up towards the line. It's going to be even slower. It's a 340.5 in the end. But yeah, rather good fun nonetheless. Thank you all so much for watching this video once again. Like I said, we probably won't do as much racing in this thing as we will in the Corvette to begin with. But I definitely want to try and learn this car a bit as well. But yeah, that'll do us for this one though, and hopefully I will see you all ready for 2020 Season 4.